On today's Form 101, we're working the hip thrust. Class is in session. Hey, Coach Ashley here at the Critical Bench Compound, and you know we're here for Form 101 because we want to get shredded. Do you want to get shredded? Real fast, go to that pinned comment below, grab the free report. That's going to tell you how. But let's go ahead. We're going to get started on the hip thrust. Now, first and foremost, a lot of people confuse the hip thrust and the glute bridge. I'm gonna correct that right here first and foremost. The glute bridge is from the ground. The hip thrust is from an elevated surface. It could be a bench, it could be a box, something with elevation. They actually make specific equipment that's in between a box and a bench just for the hip thrust. You got a hip thrust machine, that's the difference, okay? So we're focusing on the hip thrust. It is not from the ground, it is from an elevated surface. Our first mistake, my first mistake that I always see, I see it constantly, it drives me crazy, but I'm glad a lot of education's out there now on this one mistake that I do see. I see two more, I'll get to those. It's gonna be people with their eyes up. It's like almost their shoulders stay pinned to the bench and their eyes stay directly at the ceiling while the lower half of their body is moving, but the upper half is not. Now, how do we correct that? Well, we're gonna tuck our chin, and as our body drops, we're gonna allow our eyes to stay forward, and we're gonna come up and our eyes do not move, right? So you tuck the chin, we're gonna keep those eyes looking straight forward between our legs, and as our hips drop and we roll up into that hip thrust motion, our eyes do not move. They do not go to the ceiling at all. At any point in the hip thrust are your eyes looking at the ceiling. My second mistake that I do see is gonna be an overarching of the back. So we see it often, people load up their barbell and they drop those hips and then they throw it, and typically their eyes are up too. What happens is the eyes are up. When your eyes are up, you cannot engage your core, okay? That is gonna cause an overarch of the back. If you are not using your core, you will always use your back. So if your back is hurting in a hip thrust, you're probably not engaging your core. Correction for the back issue, if you're having pain, if you're overarching it, is gonna be engage the core. So as you drop those hips, you're almost doing a reverse crunch and engaging that core as you drive up. The tighter your core is, the tighter your glutes are. The looser your core is, the tighter your back's gonna be. My third common mistake I see is gonna be people not tucking the pelvis. What do I mean by that? Well, this is your pelvis right here, right? And too often people here and they just drive. Even if they're forward, they're driving. What I'm not seeing is when they're forward at the top, the correction here is you're gonna roll the pelvis in, right? So rolling the pelvis in is gonna really contract the core. But again, the tighter your core is, the tighter your glutes are. You're gonna feel a lot more in the glutes and the hamstring, that glute hamstring connection. You're gonna get a lot more out of that hip thrust if you're able to drop those hips and roll the pelvis in, almost rounding that low back, getting that core ultra engaged, that way getting a tighter squeeze on those glutes. We all want a beautiful booty. Make sure you're correcting those three common mistakes. I promise you're probably making one of those. And don't forget, we're getting shredded together. Check out that free report below, comment. I'll see you guys next time on Form 101. Class is dismissed.